You're now listening to the King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour, a special program designed to employ, empower, and educate our community. These weekly segments are a special production of the Z-Twins radio stations in partnership with King County and our community partners. Listen every Tuesday right here on KYIZ 1620 AM from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for resources, COVID funding opportunities, and interviews with special guests. Be sure to check the rebroadcast of this program online at ztwins.com and our Z-Twins Facebook page. King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. Employing, empowering, and educating.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of the King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. I'm your host, JB. And we've been talking about a lot of programs, grants, job opportunities over the past month. And that'll be more of the same this morning. Today has allocated $60 million to address the pandemic impacts in the community. And the investments include a variety of behavioral health supports, youth and family programs, food security programs, and substance use prevention programs. Now, some of the areas that were funded include $25 million for behavioral health supports, including funding for the Emergency Behavioral Health Fund, expanded access for rural King County residents, programs to address social isolation in youth and in seniors, and also youth suicide prevention efforts, behavioral health supports at permanent supportive housing and health to housing sites, mobile case management, development of culturally appropriate behavioral health services, and peer support for behavioral health. Now, $18 million went in support for youth and families, including child care grants, youth and amateur sports grants, senior center grants, and services and support for those experiencing domestic violence, something that has very much increased during the pandemic. Now, $5 million went for food security programs, including distribution of culturally appropriate food boxes and grants to farmers markets. We'll talk more about what that is defined as. And also $5 million to provide additional access to essential services. That word essential, such as legal services, digital equity, and healthcare enrollment. $4.5 million went to substance abuse and substance use programs, including establishing a sobering center, education campaigns, and needs assessments. Now, here with us this morning to talk to us about some of the community work that is being done and was done during the pandemic is our guest today, Tana Yasu, who is the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission and community organizer. Good morning, Ms. Yasu. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And there's a lot, of course, that I went over in just a short period of time, but I'm glad that you'll be with us this hour to, of course, help us break it on down. Now, before we get into some of the funds that were allocated, why don't you tell us a little bit about your work with the Seattle Women's Commission and COVID's impact on your work?
Yes, well, the Seattle Women's Commission, as some may know, but we advise the mayor, city council, and city departments on issues that impact women of Seattle, and by identifying areas of concern, and we generally recommend policy and legislation. We provide feedback and opinions on issues of city and state budget, and we act as a liaison between the women of Seattle and city government. So that's what you'll see on the website, the About Us, what we do overall. And yes, the pandemic, being that we're the Women's Commission, and most of us, it's usually up to 21. We're not all the way up to 21 at this time, but we are. And, the pandemic was a very difficult time to go through. Usually we would meet once a month at City Hall and do our work as volunteers for the city. And so we could not do our in-person meetings for at least, those first 2 years, 2.5 years. And that made it difficult. Many of us, being women, wives, mothers, caregivers for our families, put a real strain on us. And so obviously it also put a strain on the work we were able to go out and do in person. So we did a lot through Zoom. We were still able to manage to do some events on Zoom, as many folks did, such as the Domestic Violence Awareness Month events that we have been doing for the past 4 years since I've been a commissioner. So, yeah, it did make it very difficult, but we are ramping back up. We're excited. The City Hall's back open. We're hybrid meetings, and so we are now able to get back out and really engage, with the community in a way that we hadn't been able to do for the past couple of years.
Tana Yasu, co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, is our guest on this morning's King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. Now, Tana, you talked about recruitment for the Seattle Women's Commission. Talk a little bit about what you're looking for and how they can get in touch with you and contact the commission.
So, well, actually, on the website, if you go to seattle.gov/Women's Commission, you'll see a recruitment announcement. It does say the deadline is for July 15th, but we can still, take applications because it's a rolling thing. When I came on the commission, someone had left their seat and then they brought in people. So I just don't want you to let the word of the deadline, stop anyone that might be interested in filling out the application to do so.
Right.
So, you can come in and take over a commissioner's seat that might need to step back. So, basically, it's composed of 21 individuals that come together and volunteer to do this research. So it's good to have, good connections. I have a lot of community connections, work I do with the Historic Central Area Arts and Cultural District, or, just all the work I do, my network. So some of the ladies that are on the commission are more into government type work. So it's different. I'm just trying to say it's a plethora because
right.
So it's not like a certain type that needs to come. Like, just if you feel like you want to come, I joined because I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. Right. Mm-hmm. I'm a stylist and designer by trade. I'm an entrepreneur. So you'll have business women, political women, people are just social, advocates that come out and want to support. Like we say, this is volunteers, so it's not a city job.
Right. And so it's seattle.gov/Women's Commission?
Yes.
And what's the phone number?
The phone number is 206-684-4540. And there's an email, swc@seattle.gov, that we can also be reached.
All right. Okay. So we got that going. Now let's talk a little bit about the areas that were funded, that King County allocated $60 million to address the pandemic impacts, and $25 million of that went for behavioral health supports. Can you explain what that means, behavioral health, and what the support for emergency behavioral health?
Well, now that's a different lane now, because you're saying that's King County and what they're doing. So,
okay.
And I'm with Seattle.
Right.
So,
but I guess the term behavioral health is more what I'm focused on.
Oh, okay. Well, can we put it in line with what's going on this month, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month?
Absolutely.
Because, behavioral health is definitely a major part of what's going on in the domestic violence. So that domestic violence is something we're doing. I'll just say we're having an event this month, and I could tell you more details about that a little later.
Right.
But obviously, take domestic violence and all the things that come with it. Some people might look at it as, before the 70s, it wasn't even, a thing. It wasn't a big deal. People would go, oh, husband, wife, or whatever, or a man or parents are, dealing with their children or whatever. And so things like that weren't seen as, harmful. A couple might be having a issue and someone may call the police. They come and well, you're disturbing the neighbors. Can you keep it down? Things like that would happen before domestic violence in about 1987, when people began to realize, oh no, this is not something good. So then they started to acknowledge that domestic violence was a social issue, step up. So with that, obviously, if you're going through this type of violence, you're probably going to have PTSD, depression, anxiety. People get caught, they might start to do drugs and drink alcohol. The children, obviously, if they're in the home when these type of things are going on, they become affected. They go to school and they may be acting out in school because they don't know what to do. So see how that can just spiral
right
out of control. So it's not even just whenever you're dealing with domestic violence, it's never just domestic violence.
No, it's not. Tana Yasu is the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, joining us here on this week's King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. Now, we talk a lot of, and you just described, an outline of basically what domestic violence is or how it was defined. But the numbers, or at least the reported numbers, definitely skyrocketed over the last 2.5 years during the pandemic, correct?
Yes. I don't know all the numbers by heart. It's really almost ridiculous. But yes, the uptick in reported incidences,
right,
it did go up. But always that underlying number of unreported incidences. So the numbers are, they're not exact because we have many people that don't come forward, not allowed. And, domestic violence is all about control, really. By the time, it's physical, of course, but it's also mental and emotional and things of that nature, where the scars would be more on the inside than on the outside,
right,
that people are going through. So, yes, there was all of the organizations that I have been in some of these meetings with, the people that work these front lines are saying how they're, over capacity, and it's really unfortunate. And these things lead into the homelessness issue. I mean, it's a very horrible cycle. So I'm just really glad to be getting support from the city of Seattle to get people to know about this event that we're doing. The theme is, and the title is Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge. Because the folks that don't generally come forward is because of the stigmatized nature of domestic violence, and they feel like they're really isolated, they feel alone, and they feel like they can't just reach out for help. So,
Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge, huh?
Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge.
All right.
Because, imagine, like I said, by the time a person gets to, I don't want to get ahead of our conversation.
No, it's fine. Let's go.
Okay, yeah. So by the time a person, and this is things that I'm learning through, I'm not an expert. I'm a commissioner. So I want y'all to understand too, I'm more like a conduit between the public, and then I work with these other community organizations, and I get a lot of information from who are real experts in those specific fields. And because domestic violence spans, it doesn't matter money, doesn't matter age, race, it's really all over the world, but I'm staying focused on Seattle right now. It's just that large. So we also have, say even disability. I have people on the Disability Commission that they are teaming up with us for this event, also the LGBTQ Commission and Human Services Commission of Seattle, because, it's so prevalent. The Disability Commissioner, was really happy to get on board because she's like, people don't feel like caregiver abuse is domestic violence. So it's almost like in plain sight is hidden, but it's in plain sight because it could be anywhere. It could be any age. Elder abuse, and it's just all the things, but it's so stigmatized. It's almost like people, they don't want to see it. They don't necessarily want to get involved because sometimes when people get involved, they get hurt or, they just don't know how. So they, you feel like, yes, we do need that expertise. So I am really happy to see the money flowing to this area and to deal with the whole situation with all the wraparound services and not just the violence part.
Well, now there was and Tana Yasu, co-commissioner of the Seattle Women's Commission, joining us here for our King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. There was a lot that of course went into talking about. I don't like using even the term defund the police, but when that conversation was happening during the pandemic, a lot of it was about reallocating funds, and that could be one of the more should we say, dangerous phone calls that a police officer can have, is responding to a domestic violence situation. And so when in doing that, and the conversation was in regards to, well, maybe do you send a police officer? Do you send assistance, for instance, a social worker to respond to some of these instances? Talk a little bit about some of the funds and some of the conversations that you, as the Seattle Women's Commission, had in regards to how to address the domestic violence issues or those instances.
Yes, there was. That was done after the big blow-ups, and there was like a community response. Oh, and I wish I knew you were going to ask that question because I have a PDF that would be perfect for this. But so they basically brought the community together, did a study, and talked about how to handle the police. How the police could handle or what to do with this new reimagining of policing.
Right.
I did not like that term, defund the police. It would have been better to put out, in my opinion, it would have been better to say reallocate these funds or just doing it different. But when they started saying defund from the gate, it was like, okay, this is going to be a problem.
It changed the narrative.
Yeah, and it just made it something else. And we've seen what's happened. Now what's going on? We're getting more. We're giving them more money. We're gonna refund them, and not only refund them, we're gonna give them some more.
Right.
So, but the question is, are they gonna, police in a different way? And I know we're doing all we can to make sure that policing still becomes reimagined, but everything just was so reactive. It's really surprising how just reactive that was instead of being real strategic about this situation. But anyway, in that, a lot of community studies and surveys and things were done. So they have suggested that when dealing with domestic violence, they need to go in not guns a-blazing, but and then not just taking everyone to jail because they would say, for instance, if situations happen. There's children in the home. Mm-hmm. There's things, okay, this is split second, adrenaline's high, everyone's like, So the police come, their job is to just, they're just, stamping out the situation. But if you're, we'll just say, because let's not play the game, men get abused too. So let's
talk about that. And I guess, and this is something that you will address at the upcoming event,
yes.
Saturday.
Shattering that stigma, because men come forward less. But let me finish this little scenario just to show you
Go ahead.
even how insidious it is, and then when you get the police involved and all this stuff, and this is all happening in real time. Right. So you're a victim. You've been in an altercation with your partner, but you in defending yourself, you might have scratched him, right? And so when the police come, what abusers can do in a split second, that they change the narrative. They'll switch it up to be like, oh well, yeah, well, but look, she scratched me. If the police see a mark on both people are going. They don't take the time. The police don't have they just don't take the time, and it's probably not their job. Yeah, exactly. You need someone else there that could come in, assess the situation, maybe separate everybody out, try to get the story. The kids might be, if both parents have to go, what do you think is going to happen if there's children in the home? They now go into the system. Now you have the victim is a defendant now, because now she has a case against her and has to go through all of that stuff that happens when you get booked. A lot of times it's just so insidious and awful. So that's part of the problem with when police come in to deal with domestic violence, instead of having those wraparound services. And that's part of what this refunding allocation is going into, more help as far as getting the right type of people. I believe we're going to have a second emergency number where it's not a 911, like it's not a crime 911, but it's more like, yeah, we need you, but maybe they can explain a little more what's going on to determine, who needs to go, right? So there's that situation. So policing and domestic violence, they don't go together very well without more like some therapists that could possibly go, and people that can help to really de-escalate and figure out what happened here.
And that's an ongoing conversation that you're having with policymakers and the mayor's office itself, as far as how to address.
Oh yes, they've had those conversations, and yeah, that is definitely what's happening. They're looking at the domestic, and also like I said, if you have a victim defendant, just getting to the bottom of that, and this homemaker or the person that might be caring for the children now dealing with court costs and all these things. They're just saying, they're trying to eliminate that. Like, don't just go straight to that, because that's not going to help. So yeah, these conversations are being had by the mayor's office of domestic violence and sexual assault. Also, we have the Domestic Violence Prevention Council, and that going to those becoming on the Seattle Women's Commission, it increased my responsibilities, and so I was beginning to go to more meetings with the city and just being exposed to this information. And so it was just obvious to me that when this month was coming, and I was like, okay, well, this year for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, how can we, get more information to the community? Like I say, I'm the conduit. And some of these people don't know these things. If you don't know that, you could just maybe make this call, and these people could come and help you get you out and your children and get you housed and safe. If you don't know because a lot of times we get sent to the national hotline, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's by all means use it. But if you know there's something like around the corner,
right?
Yeah, so that's what what we are attempting to do, just to make sure that the community knows more of our local accessible resources, and that they're not alone, and to shatter the stigma. Imagine it's probably horribly embarrassing to you don't want to have to tell someone these things are going on. So that type of thing, to keep you quiet, and just you try to keep this aura of everything's fine, you know.
Well,
so
a lot can happen when they know that there is support, and just knowing that there is groups or resources out there that can help, that can, of course, deter a lot of these crimes from happening, or at least these situations from happening. And we appreciate you talking about this candidly with us. But when we come back here, we're going to take a brief break, and then we're going to come back and talk about your event that you're hosting with the Seattle Women's Commission on Saturday, October 15th. We are talking with co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, Tana Yasu, who is joining us here on this week's edition of the King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. When we return, we will talk about shattering the stigma through knowledge with this domestic violence event coming up. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're now listening to the King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour, a special program designed to employ, empower, and educate our community. These weekly segments are a special production of the Z-Twins radio stations in partnership with King County and our community partners. Listen every Tuesday right here on KYIZ 1620 AM from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for resources, COVID funding opportunities, and interviews with special guests. Be sure to check the rebroadcast of this program online at ztwins.com and our Z-Twins Facebook page. King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. Employing, empowering, and educating.
Welcome back to the King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. I'm your host, JB, and for past episodes, you can log on to ztwins.com or check out our Z-Twins Facebook page. This week's edition is talking a lot about domestic violence and the impact that it has on our community, in the African American community. And here to talk with us more about that in the event coming up is co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, Tana Yasu. And Tana, we appreciate your time this morning and getting this information out. Again, seattle.gov/Women's Commission is where you can get involved, not only with the commission, but lend your volunteer and expertise. You can reach them at 206-684-4540. So, how did this event come up? Tell us about it. It's Saturday, October 15th. We said Shattering Stigma through knowledge is the theme. When and where will this be held?
So this is going to be Saturday, October 15th, as you said, at Seattle City Hall from 12 to 4:30. It's a hybrid event also, so it'll be live and online, and it's free and open to the public. We are going to have free food and beverages. We're going to have a DJ there to, keep some upbeat music going, because it's just, it's not my intent for it to be sad.
Right.
And I mean, it's a thing, but I mean, the people that are coming, that we work in these fields together, we still need to, you just got to have music. You're a radio station. So
right.
You know what that's all about. So anyways, I digress. It's caught up in music. But, so we're going to have the music in the foyer where organizations will be tabling at City Hall, various domestic violence organizations, but also like we were talking about, the wraparound services, mental health organizations. There's youth care, which deals with, young people that are homeless, and, just a plethora of organizations that will be there to help folks get access to some resources or information. So there's that. We're also going to have free child care. So if you want to come, but you have little ones and you just kind of, there will be child care there, free. American Sign Language interpreters will be there as well, so there won't be that barrier. And we're going to have presentations and panel discussions that will be going on in the Bertha Knight Landers room as well. So that's the program. Well, we're also going to have like a small, I've invited some green technology businesses, because we're also having, I wanted to have a job fair element to it, because there is this new industry coming out, which is the green industry. And so there's a couple of organizations, Diamonds in the Rough, which is a BIPOC woman-owned nonprofit whose purpose is to introduce the green pre-apprenticeship program to, people of color, obviously BIPOC. But she, even the people, so they go to the shelter, you need a new life, you might need to get a job. So that, they connect with the shelters or people that are wanting to get new training and work. So that's a great, the green technologies is a great new emerging industry that you could really come up in fast if you get involved now in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Adam Powers is helping me with that, and he has Key Tech Labs. You can reach him more if you have more questions about green energy and green technology. Adam Powers is my green tech guru, and his website is keytechlabs.org, KEYTECHLABS, one word, .org. So there's Spear Solar, which is a BIPOC-owned company. They do solar installations for power. So you probably didn't know, like, in a single hour, the amount of power from the sun that hits the earth is more than the entire world consumes in a year. So we're taking these technologies and, literally taking the sun, talk about black power.
Mm-hmm.
You can power, your house and things like that from just the sun. You're saving money. If you don't use it, he could tell you all these things. So I'm just saying that to say that's part of the wraparound services too, right? You coming out of the situation. If your abuser was your, the breadwinner, that's part of domestic violence too. They use finances against you. So you have to, economic development is a part of lifting people out of domestic violence situations as well. So that's the job fair and what's going on out in the foyer. And then in the Birth the Night Landers room, like I said, there will be panel discussions. We have some politicians, Councilmember Lisa Herbold is going to come. She is on the Domestic Violence Prevention Council as well. I mean, one of the many folks, but lots of great information will be coming from her as far as, the millions of dollars that are put into domestic violence research and advocating and
Now, when you talk, and we're talking with co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, Tana Yasu here, and she's talking about the event coming up on Saturday, October 15th from noon till 4:30 at the City Hall. Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge is the theme, and in regards to trying to prevent domestic violence or provide support and resources for those who are involved in domestic violence situations. When we talk about, and we'll talk more about the resources here in just a moment, you mentioned the job fair. Are there also going to be opportunities for those who would like to get involved in regards to social work and maybe, of course, helping address situations? Is the city going to be offering job opportunities for those who want to get involved?
Well, I can't speak for the city as far as offering jobs, but I would say to go to their website and see what's going on there. But I know most of the organizations that are participating in this event, they're all volunteers. I mean, if you have the time and want to volunteer, I would say almost any one of these organizations would probably gladly use the help because, like we said, especially since the pandemic, they are, overwhelmed. This work does not stop. They do not take, well, I'm sure they take vacations, but I'm just saying,
right.
This is definitely a 365 a day, a year, 365 days a year
24/7,
situation,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and you get so involved. Even myself, it's like I put more hours into it than I'm really required as a volunteer. But you get caught up. These are people,
right?
So, well, I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll be interesting to see where people can lend their services or their expertise. And let's talk a little bit about some of the situations that you've dealt with. Now, we normally, as we talk about stigmas, when you hear domestic violence, a lot of people just assume it's men on women and not women on men. And you could talk a little bit more about that situation. But when you talk about the resources, we talk about kids being involved. What are some of the resources that'll be there to help with the children that are affected by these situations?
That would be the organizations. Let me skip to this. So we do have, we have so many organizers. Let's see, the YWCA, you know, is obviously a vast network, and so they would be a good source to reach out to. And then we also have, you know, missing and murdered Indigenous women has become a hot topic. So we have, you know, the Seattle Tribe Community Domestic Violence Advocacy Program coming out. And the Silent Task Force is another organization. So there's just, you know, like I said, a plethora of organizations coming. We have a blog post on the Seattle Office of Civil Rights website, and that would be ocr.seattle.gov. So we have a blog post there, and then we will be able to add, you know, a list of all the organizations that are participating in the event. You know, we're updating that as we go because we still have about 2 weeks to go, so we're still even onboarding organizations and want to have people aware of, you know, who all's coming because, like I said, it might be an African-American group. You know, you kind of want to have it almost needs to be culturally specific because it doesn't have to be, but it's nice when it can be, put it that way. You know, so if a black or African American folks are going through it, you know, they can plug into somewhere where the people, they can feel comfortable opening up and being, you know, transparent with what's going on with them. Then we have the Native American organizations. There's Jewish organizations. So there is cultural specific domestic violence nonprofit organizations that are being there. API Chaya, which is the Asian Pacific Islanders. You know, so yeah, it's there. I mean, if you probably never had to think about this before, but
right,
yeah, you get into it. It's there. Culturally specific organizations, and then just our general, like say YWCA or an organization like that that's nationwide.
All right. Well, sounds great. Again, that's Saturday, October 15th from noon till 4:30 p.m. Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge is the theme of the event and addressing domestic violence. And, of course, with the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, Tana Yasu, joining us here for our King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. Tana, let me ask in regards to, I know that you talked about volunteering, not only the hours for these different organizations you're working with, but for the Seattle Women's Commission. What about the participatory budget and paid opportunities that are available through working with the Seattle Women's Commission?
Oh, okay. No, that's not just through now the participatory budgeting. That's changing lanes.
Okay.
So, okay, but before we leave the domestic violence,
go ahead.
Topic, did you want to talk about, we were going to talk about how men can also be victims too.
Right, I did want to go there because that seems to be the stigma. What are some of your experiences in working with that? And a lot of times there are a lot of men that are afraid to come forward.
Yes, so that is part of what we want to have, you know, that male energy there, because for all these years, yeah, most of the time they think it's women, it's children, and men come forward even less because of the stigmas around what's going on. what I just can imagine myself sometimes when I go to these things is like, you want to, how people say, well, raise your hand if this happened to you, right? It's like, you could almost do the opposite and say, raise your hand if you haven't been assaulted or some trauma might have happened to you. I mean, just breaking down those barriers and letting people know that trauma happens to almost all of us. It's almost more normal to experience some type of trauma than not, right? So you don't have to feel like, oh, this happened to me and I'm so ashamed. Men, when they might experience molestation at a young age, and they tell someone about it, and they might be like, oh, well, what's wrong with you? You don't like this lady, doing these things to you, or what, excuse me for, saying it like that. But just an example, a young man or a young boy might be getting molested or assaulted, and then if he says something, he's like that what they call a toxic masculinity, I guess. They're like, oh, what's wrong with you? You must, something's wrong with you. You don't like this. You should be liking this. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, if it's a boy or a child, let that person be a boy or a child. Force these things, and that goes both ways, of course. But the way that they're programmed in the past, that folks have been programmed is, there's something wrong with you if you don't like being assaulted. So that definitely drives men deeper underground when it comes to reporting. So hopefully shattering these stigmas will have everyone coming forward. And that the best way to do that is with this knowledge, to let people know, you're not alone. This doesn't happen to just you, and there's places you can call or go to. So just making all of that information readily available. There's another example. I was talking with someone. It was kind of about something else, but it made me think about this, because what this gentleman said was, we were talking about when Lincoln emancipated the enslaved people. Mm-hmm. He emancipated them in the South, but it's not that he went down to get them and bring them to freedom. He emancipated them, and he said, you are free. Now you need to get across that, come on up across the Mason-Dixon line, and then also free yourself. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it, that it could play out. We're saying the things, we're giving the information. If you was in a situation and you couldn't get out and you had no money and you had no hope, and then someone said, hey, there's these people over here with $12-15 million that can help you, but you have to free yourself and get over to that situation. So that's empowering, knowledge. The enslaved people was like, what? Oh, well, we're free? Mm-hmm. I don't have to stay here. They ran on across the Mason-Dixon line. Right. And did the final work of freeing themselves. So that's kind of the vision, and that's how I came up with the theme. And like I said, disseminating some of this powerful information I'm getting through the city is going to be a game changer, I truly believe. So thank you so much for giving me that time. I also just want to shout out real quick the Seattle Disability Commission, the Seattle LGBTQ Commission, Seattle Human Services, and the Seattle Office of Civil Rights for sponsoring and joining this effort with the Seattle Women's Commission in Seattle for our event on October 15th. So, participatory budgeting, like I said, this one that's come out. Let me get to the right situation here. So, do you know what participatory budgeting is, or the general audience? Is this something I should?
I think it's something you should explain. I do. I know what participatory budgeting is, but for those who do not know, for our listeners, what is participatory budgeting?
So, and I've taken a crash course myself.
Okay.
So, participatory budgeting is a citizen engagement process through which community members decide how to allocate a portion of a public budget. Okay. Citizens make direct decisions about how government money is spent in their community by identifying and prioritizing public spending projects.
Okay. Now, where does the funds come? Where do they come from?
What the opportunity that I know about from the city of Seattle. Now, do you remember the Black Brilliance project that was done?
Okay.
I think that was in April 2022. So that was kind of they did that project, and then they identified certain areas in the Black community, city of Seattle. Did this huge Black Brilliance research project with Sean Glaze and other researchers. I shout out Sean Glaze because he's coming to our domestic violence event. But so they found the areas that the community wanted to put money into, and so the city then contracted with a company that helping us to dig a little deeper, and they are offering jobs now to help with this work. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes it's been volunteer, but this has been the whole problem with Black, BIPOC, and Black communities. We need to be getting paid. So they are offering paid positions to help with disseminating these funds to the community. So I can let me say the website address. Let me get here.
For those looking to get involved?
Yes. Well, it says apply now. Because some of these positions, they're going to go through 2023. And this one here I'm looking at as a finance associate as part of this participatory budgeting process is a $38,000 to $54,000 a year position, right? So that wouldn't be horrible, and especially the fact that you're helping the community. Mm-hmm. So
it's $38,000 to $54,000 a year.
For that position. So if you're in finance or an accountant and things of that nature, and things,
And what's the website to apply?
Okay.
And by the way, Tana Yasu is joining us, co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission here for the King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. You have that website?
Yeah, go to Seattle Office of Civil Rights.
Okay.
So there was a press release. Nona Rayburn is your contact, and her phone number is 206-962-1650. Her email is Nona, NONA.RAYBERN @seattle.gov.
Okay.
And so basically what what it's saying is the participatory budgeting process in Seattle seeks staff, steering committee, and working group members. As the process prepares to launch, there are several avenues for community to get involved and lead the way. So these are the things we definitely always say we want. So we have it now. I hope we get on board and take advantage of this. The participatory budgeting project, say that fast in time, is recruiting local staff, steering committee, working group members, shape, launch, and run one of the biggest participatory budgeting processes ever in the United States.
Okay.
Seattle is pretty good at these things.
Yeah, you would think so.
The Black, that's a whole nother show. Let me stay on point.
We'll try to stay on point. Right. But I mean, from what we do know, the $30 million funding for this participatory budgeting program came from the $100 million fund that former Mayor Jenny Durkin earmarked after community groups demanded investments into the BIPOC community and protests for Black Lives Matter in the summer of 2020. So that's basically where all this basically derived from, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So 5 Seattle-based full-time positions, so no one from outside can come in and snag these jobs. Mm-hmm. Community. One position is community engagement director, then the community engagement manager, participatory budgeting coordinator, and then 2 People's Fellowship managers. And it says applications are accepted on a rolling basis, but interviews are ongoing, and they want to hire ASAP. They strongly encourage applications from Black, Indigenous, and people of color, women, people with disabilities, and LGBTQIA plus individuals. And then there's more details about, the dispositions and things on that press release and on the website.
And that's Nona Rayburn is the contact?
Yes.
Nona Rayburn.
Seattle Office for Civil Rights.
All right. That's Seattle Office for Civil Rights at 206-962-1650 if indeed you are interested. Tana Yasu is the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission for this week's King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. And Tana, definitely do appreciate all the information that you've given, and of course the resources that will be available at the domestic violence event, Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge, which will be happening at City Hall Saturday, October 15th. From noon till 4:30 p.m. Now, this isn't your first rodeo as a community organizer, is it?
No.
And talk a little bit more about your work and the Joe Brazil Legacy Coalition.
Yes. Well, Joe Brazil is my great uncle, and he is a historic Seattle icon that I would say is almost unsung, but I've been working very hard to change that, and I feel it. Thank you so much. Like someone said, they heard the name Joe Brazil and they thought, I think I've been doing good work for my great uncle's legacy. He moved to Seattle in the early 60s from Detroit. He was already, a musician, but some people don't know, he was also a computer engineer. And he worked at Boeing. So he was just a man of many firsts. When you hear his story, like he was the first black person to do different jobs in Detroit for Chrysler. I think it was a die cast maker or something like that nature in the factory there in Detroit. And then, when he got introduced to Seattle through the Pacific Northwest through his stint in the military. And, so then when he got out of the military, then he settled down and got married with my great aunt, Frances Brazil, and they moved here to Seattle. Seattle has that effect on a lot of people.
Right. It does.
It does. And so he ended up, they have a home in the central area. I say have because, my aunt still basically resides there. The family still has that home. And he was working, but then he was also started teaching at Garfield High School, and he kind of started off that jazz program there, and then which paved the way for all their great success. That jazz program at Garfield High School, it's been great. And then he went to the University of Washington and was teaching. Then, unfortunately, he wanted tenure, did not get tenure. There was the students, basically protested. No one was happy about that. But, the times we were dealing with, things were still, very, very racially divided. And the thing is that my great uncle, he just always stood for black, right? And he wasn't gonna play the game or water down things.
Unapologetic about
it. Yeah, I think he might have been one of the first unapologetic black folks you might have known back in the day. So he did not get tenure, and it caused a lot of problems. But I mean, he still was awesome. He helped so many people, and I've been interviewing folks such as say Elmer Dixon, and got a little take on him. I just love how he said that they came to him when they were having problems, and my uncle were just kind of like, just be cool, because they was ready to, this is Black Panthers,
right.
Seattle, the Black chapter of the Black Panther Party, and that's how great of a man my great uncle was, and dealing with these young black men, and giving them great sage advice. They would go to him and help direct so many of our local talented musicians. He taught many of them, if not in one of the schools. He mentored them or tutored them, and he even started a Black Academy of Music, and was teaching, and they were performing and going out, like professionals. He connected a lot of his students and mentees to, other professionals. He would bring people to the University of Washington, professional musicians, let's say Herbie Hancock and people like that, that would really, the students would come to class, they would say, and next thing you know, some famous person is coming out, playing and talking to them. And so he was really a great person in our community, and I love how the community is loving on him. Anytime we do a Joe Brazil Legacy event, the community comes out in full support, and I just love being able to do that work, honor my uncle and honor the community. And I like music too.
I know that's right. Of course, that's why there'll be music at that event. So definitely do appreciate that. Tana, you talk a little bit about, I know we only have a couple minutes left, but for those who are first-time grant writers, 'cause I know you have experience in grant writing, what is some information, what are some of the best practices you'd like to share with those who are looking, of course, to get into a little bit of grant writing and try to get these funds that are being?
Yes, I would say if you're a first-time grant writer, depending on your field, obviously try to look for a grant that's in line with what you're doing. Read the grant, read what they want. That's why I read it. I learn the language of the grant, and then you have to speak the language of the grant. So it's not something you should try to just go through really fast. Try to give yourself a lot of time. And this is the deadline queen talking here, but my advice is to try to give yourself as much time as possible and really flesh it out. Just read the grant, what they want. Try, learn the culture of even maybe who's written the grant. Just so you can, because that's the thing. You just have to say it in the right way that they can really grasp it, understand, and feel like it's in line with what they're doing. And then generally, yes, we'll get that grant. I've been able to be successful with most of the grants I've done, and they have been for the Joe Brazil Legacy situation. It's music, it's the arts. We're providing free performances and paying the musicians, and so people that give money to the arts and are for the arts and for the artists, they like to see that. So you can explain your situation concisely, and more than likely you'll get those grants.
All right. A lot of opportunities, of course, and dealing with not only in King County, but the city of Seattle there as well. And for those who are looking for other opportunities or want to get involved with the Seattle Women's Commission, Tana Yasu is the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission. Could you give the phone number and the website again for those to get involved, who would like to be involved?
Yes, seattle.gov/Women's Commission, and the phone number is 206-684-4540.
All right. Tana, we appreciate your time today here on the King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. And good luck, of course, Godspeed to you and everybody involved in your event, Shattering Stigma Through Knowledge. Of course, an event that is addressing the issues of domestic violence. That'll be at City Hall Saturday, October 15th from noon till 4:30 p.m. Tana, we appreciate your time. Have a blessed day, and we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Absolutely. That's Tana Yasu, of the co-chair of the Seattle Women's Commission, our guest for this week's King County Health Equity and Opportunity Hour. Again, you can find this episode and other episodes at ztwins.com or on our Z-Twins Facebook page. Again, we appreciate your time for this week's King County Health Equity Opportunity Hour. We'll be back next week with another episode.